a number of different custom solutions that we're able to offer, whether it be in the automotive world, aerospace, rail construction, anything like that. We're able to, not only have a good set of standard items, but we're able to solve problems with custom solutions that can help solve any end user issue that they may run into in the deburring process.
This video is brought to you by Osborn. We help you to finish first. If you're looking for real-world insights, tips from leading industry experts, the latest trends in products and technology, you've come to the right place. From MSC Industrial Supply, this is Tooling Up.
Hello and welcome to Tooling Up. I'm your host, Toni Neary, and I'm so glad that you've joined us here today. Before we get to today's guest, let's go ahead and click those like and subscribe buttons to make sure you don't miss any amazing episodes that we have coming up, like the one you're about to see. All right, everybody subscribed? Great. Today, I'm excited to be talking about deburring with Sadler Kleve. He's the National Account Representative for Osborn. Sadler, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Tooling Up.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so I'd love to hear a little bit about how our guests found their way into manufacturing. How did you end up in this industry?
Yeah, so I've actually had an interest in, the manufacturing process and design, but kind of went into marketing in college, and that's kind of how it led me into the more sales role. But it's kind of cool because I'm able to, still work with those, custom engineered solutions and solve customer problems through, our products we're offering.
I love it. And do you think it would be kind of safe to say that Osborn has deburred the deburring process?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a number of different custom solutions that we're able to offer, whether it be in the automotive world, aerospace, rail construction, anything like that. We're able to, not only have a good set of standard items, but we're able to solve problems with custom solutions that can help solve any end user issue that they may run into in the deburring process.
And one of the things I loved when we talked earlier was the fact that you actually go on site and you're really side by side with your customers. Can you talk a little bit about how that changes the experience with finding or creating the right solution?
Yeah, absolutely. In the deburring world, it's really hard to do anything remotely. So, my preference is to, be at the spindle or be at the CNC machine, trying to help understand exactly what these end users are having issues with and how we can, better attach a deburring brush application to that process to help solve their problem.
I love it. And I have to be honest, when I think about automation, deburring is not the first thing that comes to mind for me. So tell me the truth. Why automation in deburring? Is it because nobody likes to do it?
There's definitely some of that. A lot of the time it's an afterthought for most users. They don't really think of it until they run into, quality issues or some kind of spec issue.
And I think that's something that people tend to overlook is the fact that, a little too much pressure, maybe not the right process. Manually deburring can actually end up damaging products, right?
Yes, absolutely. We see it all the time, whether they're actually using a brush manually or if they're using some type of deburr hand tool, things like that. Parts get damaged all the time. And when you automate that, it takes that out of it. You're running it, within certain parameters. So the brush is being ran properly while hitting the part appropriately instead of, taking chunks out with a deburr whip or things like that.
And I think it's not even just the automation of the process, but your brushes are not the average deburring brushes. What do you think are the bigger differentiators for Osborn deburring brushes?
Yeah, the big difference I see out in the field is, our overall quality. We offer a very high quality product that, performs exceptionally well. That's the biggest thing. The life of the product, the quality of the finish that it's putting on these parts, and then the biggest thing is to avoid early failures. We see that a lot. As long as the brush is being ran properly, we don't typically see any type of early failure out of our abrasive nylon products.
And I think one of the things that is more impressive is just how you can really kind of set those parameters on the brushes with doing automation in the process. So what are some of the parameters that you can set within the process with automation versus something with manual deburring?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, like you mentioned, the pressure, how much what we call, the penetration of the brush to the part. That's something that trying to do that by hand or just by eyeballing it, in a manual process is close to impossible. They're either not using enough pressure or they're putting way too much pressure on the brush, and that can damage not only the brush, but most importantly the user's part. So that would be the biggest one. And then speed and feed rate are also two key factors to that. Same with the penetration side of it. If you are feeding the part across the brush too fast, you're not going to get the deburring action that you're looking for. So as soon as that's automated, it really simplifies the whole process from the deburring standpoint.
And the other thing is, will it help with the longevity of the brushes if you're using automation with those versus, again, the manual?
Yep, absolutely. The overpressuring of parts into brushes, will cause it to wear faster, to wear wrong, not how it's intended to be used. And then in certain situations, you can certainly, if you're overpressuring the brush, break filaments, and then you're talking about having to scrap a brush just because of improper use.
All right, Sadler. So we've talked about the application with automation, but let's talk about sizing. So what does the variety look like for companies that are looking to automate some of the deburring? I know there's 1/4 inch to 20 inches. Can you talk a little bit about just variations?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a category standpoint, we'll break it down that way first. It's the easiest for me to explain. We have, our wheel brushes, which come in a radial wheel. Those sizes range, all the way down to, I believe, standard wise, it's like a 1/2 inch up to, as big as, 20 inches in some cases. And then we have a disc style brush that is, used for deburring flat surfaces. And that typically gets, those go all the way down to 1/2 inch, all the way up to, 10 to 14, 16 inch sometimes in diameter. And then from our internal deburring brush standpoint, that's where it really gets kind of crazy on that. So we make micro abrasives that are very, very small, under an 1/8 of an inch in some cases, and then that goes all the way up to 6, 7, 8 inch internal diameters of these holes that we're deburring. So a lot of range in the size of those, and specifically on our internal side, that's I would say the biggest range.
Well, Sadler, thank you so much for joining us today. I know I've learned a ton, and I hope our audience has as well.
Yep, thank you.
It was great hanging out with Sadler today. And if you enjoyed our conversation as much as I did and want to make sure that you see more discussions just like this one, please subscribe to our channel. To find out more about ATB deburring brushes, visit www.mscdirect.com/products/Osborn. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Tooling Up.
Want more insights and ideas to improve the efficiency and productivity of your operations? Check out the Tooling Up video playlist to hear tips that can take your company to the next level. And subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out.